I know that this morning I will be sharing my thoughts with inspiring pioneers of development who have learned more than any others in Nagaland what sustainable development and proper growth require from what they have already innovated and demonstrated abundantly. So I feel highly honored to be invited to participate in this continuing search by you and your team to do better what you have started in so many villages where most of our people live. You are showing that problems are meant to be solved and made our wealth and strength, not because of our despair and our destruction. That's what's happening elsewhere in Nagaland. As we go into our program with our common commitment and desire to create a better future for our desperately struggling people, we are deeply conscious of the real possibilities of continental disasters that will take the whole world backward and worse because of unhealed divisions due to unhealed wrongs and injustices. I said these are possibilities, and we are all aware of them. So, we start with a sense of acute urgency about ourselves and our efforts, and with prayers also in our hearts for our world that the worst may not happen. I think as I go into my particular subject, I think what I feel a lot of our problem is in this not knowing ourselves. We all know about Socrates' word, know yourself. A life not examined is not worth living. Of course, we have all heard about it, so we know it and we just stop there. But I think if we know ourselves as a people who are just starting our journey, in terms of our exposure to the world, we are barely 100 years old. And everything that is coming to us from a changing world that has been changing for a long time, our response produces the wrong solutions. And so we are creating more problems and solutions. And so I think that is to be one thing. Know ourselves, know how we should learn and do properly. I think that's the main point I want to start with. The subject given to me is, as read out, peace, justice, and strong institution. Peace building to achieve SDGs in Nagaland. To peace, justice, and strong institutions, we can add mutual trust, goodwill, cooperation, security, then stability and development becomes possible and sustainable. That's how I see the beginning of my subject. How do we achieve sufficient change in people on a sufficient scale with sufficient depth in them? I understand this to be my particular focus that I'm meant to do. Working on my subject soon brought back to me three well-known observations. First, the first one by Jean Monnet. I think you've heard of him. He's known as the father of the European Union. At first it was the European Community, Economic Community, and so on. And many things have gone wrong and are going wrong in Europe. But for a long time, the institutions that he helped to establish, he was an international bureaucrat also, and diplomat and economist. So he said this on institution. First, nothing is possible without people. Nothing is lasting without institutions. The institutions, if they are well built, can accumulate and transmit the wisdom of successive generations. Nothing is possible without people. Nothing is lasting without institutions, and so on. Then the second one, a typical one by Abraham Lincoln. He said, God must love the common people. He made so many of them. The main problem that brings down all attempts to develop is the unreliability, undependability, and shortcomings in the human element, which we tend to treat too lightly. The human element in all that we try to do, the human element is the most serious problem. We can say that this was shown first at the very beginning of development story. God came to his Garden of Eden. The first man employed for that project, I think the first one ever to be employed according to our Christian story, was, you know him. And then he gave him that responsibility. It was going to be his, I believe, the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven. That's how he was thinking God, I believe. But the first man, when God came to the garden again, was not on duty, absent. Very much like what's happening to him, I think. And so God shouted, Adam, where are you? I think I'm just so stirred by that exclamation. Imagine in that Garden of Eden, only one man and his wife. And God said, Adam, where are you? It's so moving. Addressing a human being that he had put in the job. And then he said, my God, the human element is weak. I think that has been going for a long time. That institutions are all run by people. If nothing is possible without people, and then institutions are so important, their institutions are all run by people. We must remember. The entire political, administrative, bureaucratic machinery of the state for the management and growth of our society, the churches, temples, mosques, namghars, I think the Sikh temple, what are they called? Yeah, Gurdwaras. I think they are doing better than the other temples. All these, they are all powerful institutions in their own fields. Then the NGOs of all kinds, some of which were all mentioned by RDC, they are all run by people. And so I think you will reflect with me on this, that the human element is the problem. That's where we have to give our attention. Not an easy thing, but otherwise we are wasting our time. God made so many people because he loves them. I think, sorry, I said I had 3 observations, 3 thoughts that came to me, I missed out. Yeah, the third one was Archie Mackenzie. He was a UN diplomat from Britain, and he worked with Ted Heath, Prime Minister of Britain at that time. He helped to write the the poverty problem, the disparity between the North and the South, the rich advanced nations and the poor. And the beginning of tackling of that, he wrote that paper with the Ted Heath. He said, the United Nations have wonderful plans for development of all kinds. And we have the best economists planning them. He said the problem, a lot of the problem, the main problem often in many situations is those who are doing those, they have sticky fingers. Sticky fingers. And yes. Yes, God made so many people because He loves them, yes. But are they playing the highly responsible, unique part they are destined to play by their Maker for the sake of building the just, fair society on earth? Or do they think and behave like leeches? So that government by them and for them becomes too destructive for everybody. Government by leeches, by them and for them. I think that's an ugly word to use. But frankly, again speaking from Kohima and Dimapur area, leech-like thinking has taken over our people. During the more than 2 years COVID lockdown, when all mankind was forced to think and introspect, I too was doing that, like many of you. One day I felt I had come to a fundamental clarity about life on earth. And I said to myself, if you really think you get to some clarity, in every situation, this was this one, in every situation, every moment, every day, two possibilities or choices confront us, me. One possibility challenges me. The other possibility tempts me. It's a temptation. A temptation, if I accept the one that challenges me, I start to change and grow. Hope, faith, and freedom are born in me, and my happiness is deeper. Others find doing the right thing is possible. They also say that I can also do it. Hate, violence, destruction can become unmanageable, can become manageable, even they can be ended or reduced or ended. If enough of us will choose to respond to what challenges us rather than what tempts us. The temptation, okay, I had an immediate gratification, my benefit there, or I will avenge something that has been done to me, or I will get an advantage here. It's always there, I find. I don't know what it is with you. If I choose the one that tempts me, I may enjoy instant gratification of my selfishness. But a clear, deep unhappiness and guilt starts because of a sense of betraying my responsibility as a human being takes over. Others too decide it is possible to do anything. They say that, well, everybody is doing it, so why not me? There is a gradual collapse of everything. And I find this has helped me to understand what I'm expected by my destiny as a human being to do. At that point, you and I, we better not say that I'm just an ordinary person. I'm not a well-placed, powerful man. I'm not a rich man, contractor, or this or that, this or that. Because I am a human being, made in His image, as we say. and therefore I have a role to play, and I'm going to do my darndest. Everything changes, I find. Then, recently I read this. J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter, we all know Harry Potter. Harry Potter in the Goblet of Fire says, we all must face the choice between what is right and what is easy. We all must face the choice between what is right and what is easy. The challenge of living on this planet becomes very immediate. My choice becomes very immediate. And then I thought of, the same kind of thinking. Santa Tukaram in Maharashtra, near Pune. He was in the 18th century. He said this: every moment of our lives, we face a challenge to do what is right and reject what is wrong. There is the same kind of understanding of the challenge of living in this world, the meaning of living in this world. Now, examples. Too many, we cannot do with no time. But suppose Gandhiji or Wilberforce. Wilberforce, the MP, British MP, whose fight ended in the Parliament, ended in the British Parliament passing the bill to abolish slavery in the British Empire. The beginning, what that started. And everybody said he was going to be the next Prime Minister after his friend, William Pitt the Younger, his friend. They entered Parliament at the age of 21. They became MPs, very rich, and his friend became the Prime Minister like his father. Everybody said Wilberforce will be the next Prime Minister. He was so talented. He chose what challenged him. Things were so wrong, and he could not wipe it out of his mind. He accepted to fight for what challenged him. And what happened to the world? Many things are still wrong, but a door was open for mankind. So much still to be done there. And then Gandhi, on that small railway platform in South Africa, Pietermaritzburg, a small station in an isolated area, and we all know the story. I think you all know that story of Gandhi being thrown out of his compartment by the big, strong, white ticket collector. Who has not read that? Everybody has read that? Are you following me or? Who has not read it? Okay. Please read it, because he was traveling, he was a member of the citizen of the British Empire, so he said, I am just like anybody else in the British Empire. So he was traveling with a first-class ticket. He sat in the compartment with all the others, white, brown, yellow, green, everybody. And he was sitting there. The ticket collector, a very big white man, came and said, hey, get out. He said, I have my ticket, first-class ticket, first-class compartment. Get out. Gandhiji said, I have my ticket. So this man just grabbed him, a very strong man, pushed him, pulled him, threw him out into the platform, and the train took off. It was cold, it was dark. Gandhiji that night, he had, of course, a lot of preparation before that, but that night, he chose the challenge. That two possibilities, clear possibilities. He chose the alternative, the challenging. And what has happened to the world? If he had chosen the one that tempted him, okay, I'll make these people pay. He could have done so much. Mao Zedong did that in his own way, on a huge scale. Pol Pot, etc., Stalin. It can go on and on. I feel leaders like Indira Gandhi, Modi, Xi Jinping, they did not, okay, the ones who have gone, they did not choose the one that challenged them. They chose the one that tempted them and what the world has become and becoming. As an ordinary person, one of the common people, do you and I take that position that someone else in a better position or power, wealth, etc. will do the challenging thing? I'm just ordinary fellow, so I'll do as I like. And the consequences of that on a huge scale, the problems becomes unsolvable, absolutely unsolvable. I think we know that very well. The other one is sorry, I'm losing my point. Yes, what needs to be done? What needs to be done, I believe, is the breath of God in us that makes us to be aware of that question, and we just ignore it. What needs to be done in any situation? What must be done? Huge question, but very silent question at first. Later on, it will explode. But when it comes to you and me, what needs to be done? Not me. Somebody else. Somebody else. I tell you, my dear friends, to really think about this. In any situation, what needs to be done? My gosh, the world has gone so damaged and so wrong in so many things. What needs to be done is, my God, not me. I shouldn't be so immodest to think I have any part to play. What needs to be done? What must be done? I think my response to that, again, what must be done? Who will do anything about it? Very easy for me, because I'm a very untalented man in my mind. I'm very slow and all that. The greatest temptation for me, or the natural thing is, no, what needs to be done, somebody else will do it. I will not be a success, you see. I will not be a success in doing what needs to be done. See, success is my driving ambition, hunger. To succeed, to be popular, and to say, wow, what a great thing he is doing. He's a great guy. That kind of thing, my calculation is, I will not succeed like Gandhi or Wilberforce or somebody, and therefore, no. Immediately my motive is there something in me, see? So I think this is something not enough time to go into this, but this is a very important question, that's why I mentioned. Just put it forward for you to think. And then, all Nagas are wonderful. We want to do the right thing. Amazing, we all want to do the right thing. I certainly am one who wants to do the right thing. But there is a difference. Doing the right thing my way or his way. There is a terrible difference. Because if I do the right thing my way, I'm afraid in no time it becomes hell. Maybe not too quickly, but in due course, the other guy has won. My way, because it's his way. If I do the right thing God's way, he tells me this is the right thing, and I do it his way, everything opens up. All possibilities. I come alive. I become a servant of a purpose. My life is right. So these are things that we have to discuss, examine. Doing the right thing my way or God's way, the inner voice way. For myself, I think I've come to the end of my time. Two more. For me, when I returning to Nagaland after being away for about 40 years in different parts of India, I worked in all states of the Indian Union except J&K and Tripura. I don't think I'll manage to go to J&K, but I'm determined to see at least Tripura. But I returned after many years out there working the association I was involved in. And I found myself in the middle of our people's search for healing, reconciliation, and all that. You've heard about it, and by all organizations. And in that, I faced a situation where Angami Public Organization had to deal with the issue of Shillong Accord. You may have heard of it. I think you're tired of hearing it. Anyway, a very divisive issue. And in that, I went to my younger uncle, Uncle Fizo's younger brother, who was one of those who signed it, and who came and tried to reinterpret it. And I knew why they did it, and they were absolutely at the end of the tether. But they did it, and they came to reinterpret it in a way that did not fall fully on them. And so I took this as a public stand in a big meeting in Mokokcho, when all Naga tribes were gathered in the process of Nagaho being formed. And then I said, today we must deal with where we are responsible for the problem rather than where others are responsible. And I cannot talk about anybody else, but at least I can talk about, I believe, my maternal uncle. So I said, I have heard many times from Isaac and Muiba in Bangkok and other places that they wrote 3 letters and to Fizo, the president, but waited for 2 years, no replies came. And I said, he is wrong. There's no way to run any organization, whatever the purpose of the organization. In this, he was wrong. And I said that, and then another point I mentioned. And then on that occasion, everybody became silent. Well, about 1,000 others there. Everybody became silent. And there were about 5 or 6 Indian journalists sitting in front. I said, God, what do I say? Who am I? I'm just the thought came to me, I believe this morning that Uncle Fizo in heaven, if heaven is what we believe heaven is very happy we are talking about his mistakes. The whole room started clapping. And after the questions and answers. No, they didn't solve the problem, but at least I said what I really felt I needed to say on my part, for my family and for my tribe. I have many things to say on that, but I can't go into that further. The next one was in my village. We had to deal with 22 killings that had taken place, occurred in my village because of political differences. In this, the most difficult one was the killing of T. Sakre. You may have heard of him. He was the brilliant General Secretary of the Naga National Council. My uncle was the president. And at the most difficult time, when Sakre said, we cannot defeat the Indian army, so what do we do? How do we continue our struggle? My uncle condemned him and said, such men do not deserve to live. In a short time, Sakre was killed. And I took the line that I believe Uncle did not issue the order as he says, but he was morally responsible for the killing of Sakre, the General Secretary, because it had divided our village very deeply, terrible division. My uncle's family, many of them were very unhappy. But I found that at that point, I chose the one that challenged me. I chose the one what needed to be done. I felt that in my small way, my experience was that I was doing the right thing. And as a result, I find out I can talk to anybody. I can talk to Mueva anytime. That was for many times I met him. Isaac was my roommate, my class friend, and all that. I talked free with and attend. I went to see Kaplang in near Chenmahu, Neo Chenmahu, and so I find that you clear up your part where you are not happy about yourself, your part. You're not at peace. You say that, I wish we didn't do that, or we did that. I wish we said that, or we hadn't said that. That thing, be honest and be transparent. I found that as we do that, here on this 1 or 2 points, we, not you, we are wrong. Then the others say, they're talking about where they are wrong, not about us. There is a connection. Peace building becomes possible because trust comes in, cooperation comes in, goodwill instead of ill will. Think of the ill will destroying our society. Horrible. All because I point out where you are wrong and you know where I'm wrong, I don't talk about it. I'll end with this. Aldous Huxley, the great English writer, in one of his books, he said this: those who crusade not for God in themselves, but against the devil in others, do not succeed in making the world better. Those who crusade not for God in themselves, but against the devil in others, do not succeed in making the world better. He said it is extremely dangerous to be more against the devil than for God. And I find that I need to often just stop and say, okay, I'm so brilliantly pointing out where they're crusading against what the wrong they have done. Okay. Where do I need to crusade for God in myself? I need to see where I'm not happy with what has happened or not happened. I think that is the beginning of peace building. That is the beginning of restoration of the relationships, human relationships, that enables sustainable development goals to be achieved. I hope I haven't taken too much time. Thank you.
Honestly, limited knowledge. I have a limited knowledge out of my box, Only I came because I am getting the privilege to be engaging, and then the later phase after this, there's a table of discussion happening, and this really convicted me to come and then to present certain of just an opening thoughts, and then beyond this we can elaborate and then discover together what and how to do better. So thank you so much for this privilege to our sponsoring team. There's a real sense of excitement actually. The United Nations SDG goal, which is also known as the global goal, discussion is actually happening here, and there it is going live here this afternoon. Like someone said, it can be outdated for other platforms also, but migrating here, to us it is happening, and it is important because only after our relevant discussion it is going to be incorporated in the system necessary. So to us it is still updated, and I feel that it is a necessity talk. So with this, I am excited, but it would give me more of a trigger excitement only if this discussion leads to a realistic development. And someday, if we get to see the implementation, platform the implementation, then the word investment, all the idea, critique or critique ekta rasta pai jeshi phal ai jeshi na bole to this could be the best. So something has to come out through our investment and through the sacrifice we are putting forward today. I'll be presenting on inclusive and quality education in Nagaland. I went to a market, I mean, Dukande Jeshe, and I wrote Dukande Kushichi, I see this good shoe. Maiki gan to Juda Bhal dikhile ki hui jai, Maiki gan yadi jale ina se, especially Chukuri gan. To Juda Bhal lagi Jeshe, it is beautiful to look at. It Dukande joldi Dukande Kushi Jeshe, Amila size to dishe, 37 size to 9. Na? This Dukani out of stock se, Didi apni to dia do, 36 size se asle pachi ina se ina bole do. Only women knows how it feels to leave behind something of our desire. Maiki kan bhai jani, dukan dekhi bhai dekhi she, pishi phal lagi she, chhari gina cha rati khoma bole na para to we can share. Dozing around, restless, khoma bole tablet tawa ekta khali bhi kam na chuli, aro itu wapas chai gina nikhi na tak it's a torment. Ekdam diktar kuri di to ami kan restless kuri di. Just because the sales women has really endorsed the product well, parlor se kuishi samando, aru moi ki ekdam sabule ekdam bhal lagi jaga na ami jaigina khilina, number 6 ko bai na thakina khilina anina rakhina, khitia laga bo excitement thaki jaido. Aru excitement ase, one special occasion aise, chol din match and mix saman dhali dishe, juta na thali gina all the jaina boy ase, wedding ekta de, occasion special ekta de, aru you know, I put on the shoe and then I get lots of admiration. Ekdam sabole kan dema sundura sai ase, there's compliment. Maiki kan to joldi koi dide, kon ba to suku juli na be sai de, kon ba to joldi bishi mille na be koi de do. So there's this compliment. Aro kon ba to any like secretly also, ekta to moi be joldi kini logo lagi ko na, bagen mani chama kule plan bi kuri loi, joldi. Ine ho jai to be 37 laga bole mano do. 36 size juda lagakena whole ke boa laga de measure kuri do. Na? With tight shoe whole day, uncomfortable, restless. Aru with tight shoe laga gani kotha boa bi kini ka chaise bi concentrate korna pare. Pasna thanda kiri ase. Aru ekdam matha bi khorai kena vomit bi goli mun jaigena. There's this regret on the purchase. Na? Refund nai. Aru hard investment pura ito 36 juda de pilai kena. Whole the two paigana regret kuna buanishna, unrealistic and irrelevant education package may look too good and extravagant in presentation, but at the end there's no deck. Luija bole kibi nai. Itu ba sabole aru kotha bole kibi nai. This is a struggle. Trying to make the SDGs more realistic and contextual is a happy package actually. To have the ideation that Nagaland or our region will also get its own customized educational privilege delights me, but of course with lots of responsibility. It is a delight, honestly. To access a discussion in the table, which I'm talking about the later table, where we will look forward to extensive sharing, elaborated effort and input, I will be talking about inclusive education and quality education as two decisive compartments in a very brief way, and will look forward to get more from you. When we talk about inclusive, linguistic barrier nai, religious barrier nai. Ami laga high school de mo laga best friend do Hasina Begum Guna Muslim agi lagishi, and I really miss her. Tai bi sadi ujeshi, ami bi sadi ujeshi. And the time that I catch up with her, I make it a point that I catch up with her. I have a good friend. Around upbringing to like short stay study to Maharashtra Hindu dominated land, but Sadigan Pal and I'm still in touch with them. So education has no barrier. Idugani Achino stakeholder and Ado, we have to be very broad-minded, and we have to perceive in this attitude what we are going to talk and what we are going to bring forth. It is not only about my clan, the decision is not only about my school, my academic institution, it is not only about my tribe, but it is about the whole coming together and making something good happen. So how inclusive is inclusive education? Where is the stopping? Actually, what are we bringing into stretch our potential. What is inclusive education? Well, beyond this, we have to really, like beyond this step, beyond this discussion, into inclusive education, in a very brief, concise format, inclusive education is defined as a system of learning, which includes everyone. So, I will parado inclusive education as a and one that can cater to the learning needs of specially abled children. Specially abled children disabilities. Konba school problem, konba thinking problem konba wheelchair it may be by board, chanambi inigai konba do situational, circumstantial situation thing wheelchair de pera kinega purna amikan ekta school te ekta system da anubule pare wo to discussion ase. So this is it, inclusive education it was in. Back then, even to me, chorus of the board being given free and fair education concept and implementation is inclusive education. Right now, when we are progressing in our education attitude and bringing more collaborated ideas in order to be applicable to the generation and applicable to the global context, incorporating specially able children in the academic classroom and giving them dignified qualification or degree to us is an inclusive education. And so to bring in specially able children to classroom is an effort. So try correct us, or maybe this is why we are discussing this issue here. To talk about education for 2.68 crore specially able children in our country, India. 2011 census Bagwado, out of 121 crore, 2.68 crore do disabled one way or the other, say. Global Universal Standard Day, 21 disability to disability ko lagi special able to category de anibo lagi ko na system or 21 problem na disabled situation kan list ko na se or India bi to approve ko na se or itu takam do the amount to 2.68 crore and more citizens of the nation ani kana and do takam baro 45% do uneducated or rural area posti context te tension, and this is why we are elaborating on this issue. And how to manage the development? Education in how many categories they should be understood. Our key category in terms of their potential to be incorporated is a discussion which will go beyond today. Only to let us understand my own findings and my own evaluation though, since the definition of inclusive education especially able children now Suku develop takat nai, think develop takat nai, heart develop takat nai, kono bade wheelchair koi jaise, or kono bade olop chudi mano, patapat ami laga chukura itabra thuri lo adom laga chutu chukura bada nathura nishina problem, or kono bade hyper ho jaye, ekdom extra fast na, itu kinika kuna incorporate krubo ni bole. Since the definition itself talks much on their need, ability, and also expected limitation, we may gently understand that they are the section of the society who would need 5-dimensional care and intervention. One is residential or home care. Second is physical health care. Third is mental health care. Fourth is dignified academic achievement or qualification or degree. And fifth is professional or employable skill development in them. How to be empowered them or make them employable. And unless there is a system and an agency which brings uniform intervention, or unless there is a law of positive interferences, it is difficult to ensure that we have quality educational pattern for them, or they thrive in equality and justice. Or they got especially able children, or to make it more easier, disabled this group of people here represent Why? Why uniform law or certain like system or agency looking after their needs in a mandatory format? Number one, raising specially able children depends on their parents. Then, especially able children, korde ekta thing olop ya half pay paralyzed hoina thaka bacha na taikan othai dibole do depends on the parents. Amma baba la opore thaki their understanding. Taikan ami laga bacha to kili thing biao jeshna ami laga bacha to dimak eman slow kili ujeshna na 21 to list to pura ase moi time save kore nogoi moi thuri kina ase noile to ami laga bacha to kotha joldi kili nogoi na ami laga bacha to thik pra kili nuhuni na itu kinega ama baba ba puchi itu sabra bacha ki to uthai di to ama baba bra na. So according to their ego taka laga temperaments taka laga emotions or decision is upright to bacha kan ki to uthai di itu kani lucky kanto fortunate kanto ama baba bra hawabi kushuli natigina they are indulged in privileges hawabi kushuli natigina ami laga bacha tai to think bala se tai think biya se to kodi tai ki te karo biya wala ke sai dibo lage tai football khili bole mo jele tai ke special football coaching bhi dibo lage guna privilege bishi digina bi uthai di to only we are on the other side of the story there are some who may go through undeserving rejection and refusals na kono balo aro side this side to ama baba bra tai ki sabuli mon nai reason bishi bra tai ki bhal bra sabuli na side digina ekdam nukte correct ta uthai dibo pare na duida context ase ekta bhal bra uthai di aro ekta biya bra. So there is a visible deprivation and inequality. It means to kali ama baba bra family bra takan bra janam paise takan laga risk ase saile sabi na sabi kuna rakhi tishu bole there is a deprivation and visible injustice and inequality in our system. Itu ekta ase. Secondly, every family and individual are confined within a social spectrum. American society ekta system ekta de phasi jaigina lole pushi jaigina ase to where belief American laga vishwas spiritual life and community influences cannot be ignored. So if there is a belief that special birth of a child is a curse, it is a sin, social embarrassment, then family tend to close the child from outside interaction, improvement and opportunities. Amla bacha to baat ase kiba to jeshi tai to dikta kuri jeshi ne ke amla family to abila khandam dunge nigai hoyo na mishi society ba tidi shugole noile to ami kan laga muslim hindu system de christian system de catholic system de pentecostal laga spiritual attitude de ai ni ka janam ba to ekta galti hoile hoy sorom la ase potna ekta ase baap ekta ase bole to ki jane ami kan to bacha laga darwaja te phone kuri di outside manu ke kotha kuli na de aro improvement chance na di degi that you are a curse baap ase apne khili bahar to abo koi jabi na aro ta ki opportunities rasta kuri na. This can be one case idu bani family ki igla rakhi dile to inga problem bi ami kan face hobo. Thirdly, financial and economic position of the family may resolve the child's future. Some cases may require maybe consistent medical intervention in a child's life, and on top of that, to pursue for quality education may be a frustration for some parents. To connect that, ami missionary ekta kam chutu mutu salary kom di nole to tukam de income holo business ekta de chutu mutu etu income de ami kan uthable try pradam diaro ekta problem bacha to lai jeshi to tai do every moina medical hospital de chabo lagi tai ki side bulo lai ase oliba unfortunately tai ki medical sadam di do phal education tai kani thaka to ami kan phaguli mon nai to tai zinda ho jat rakhi shukule to tai ki de to pathi khilabule pani le to aro tai laga thingi to hospital de every time jaina side dish le itu la ki pari mo ni ga guna economy low thaki shukule to bacha ki de bo to na jane ki ami kan ignore kuri dibo. So by the time they are of age, parents have already given up on them. They remain untried and unfulfilled. Na tai laga skill to ami kan sab nukri kana de bhala sio bola bacha to itu think bi already noile to think bi already guitar bhalra bacha kole pare tabla bhalra bacha kole pare noile to bhalra kotha kole pare artist paint gule itu sob the skill to ami kan itu ama baba na side di no itu to tai ki try nukri untried and unfulfilling rakhi. And this is where the roles of position authority in our body, position authority like NFI, National Foundation for India's Intervention, government's mandate, stakeholders' participation will engender uniform and acceptable privilege for the special group of children and people. Yadi ami kan ai jai de stakeholder NGO ho pari, society ho pari, individual family like interested kiba ka chutu ekta burigina dakan ki side ho pari na government laga mandate ho pari aji NFI laga intervention ho pari olibi itu bai ami kan ekta rasa khuli loi niga se. So on inclusive education my presentation all of yes there. While the education has equal priority and agreement, yes, actually though we have realized and that is why we are here. I know especially able children can be disability can be classroom the people lagi academic education qualification degree भी ठीक people lagi in a way dignified legitimate qualification दी people lagi itu bhavana barani ami kan to IJC also this is a priority important ase agreement to kuri loishe aro any like that. So it will be my personal opinion though, my fear while trying to write on this was, while trying to incorporate them in the classroom with rest of the children, may or will this trigger some imbalanced outcome? It is the problem. Amila problem though. Rest of the children kaluhote, bacha kaluhote, or disabled de thaka bacha kan bhi aigina boi dishe bole to imbalance result ekta hobna no boi de mondo thakishi ki jane itu special bacha kan ki time ti bole try problem de na while trying to catch up with them are we losing the rest of the children na special concern de thaka bacha kan ki aste bra slow process pra ekta classroom bitore dikhai dia tam de aste bra aro dusra bacha kan normal thaka kan to ami kan harai dibo na harai dibo takan kani bishi slow no no itu barni actually my presentation and my opinion was personalized classroom with required structure and educative tool should be made available for the specially able children na ekta room de ekta class de no ekta school de ekta campus de hobo pare beyond this spatial class hobo pare will be in a specially able bacha kan ki do pari personalized classroom takan laga kinika type de takan koile bench to chair to comfortable hobo yadi to ami kan thing har so phalawa gari the chair de ara pra pujai do olibi aro ekta thing ono pia isu bole do no school of takan thaka isu bole do ki jane the chair de aram no do idu bani kinika in the ekta classroom takan kani bonai digina alag chair ta rakhi dibo table alag ekta rakhi dibo na iniga kuna customized classroom takan kani bonai digina function kule bhalu na no. This is one concern that I am bringing forward to the stakeholders. So Nagaland framework day, moi charta paste I am going to request to the model number 1. It is right that certain schools are marked as inclusive school in Nagaland. Idiado inclusive school ase kuna Nagaland de mark kyo ho jeshe kombai school do. Well be what is more important is inclusive school there people or children with disability special able children of Aigina Pujabijide, what kind of a teacher should be teaching them? Na? Normal teacher, I mean regular PA Loshe, regular PD Loshe, for example, regular graduate who master's degree law, ekdam specially able children can get ekdam phal bra satisfaction bra shikawle parbo na paribo. Na? It vekta say this is the reason like why we are talking here. Idu garni special children gani do special educators lage dai to aste bra shikai do kana aste bra kiniga shikai dibo joldi gusa lagi du gani poslai gina kiniga koi dibo thanda kotha bra professional skill bra aro dibichi de dai do kandulok thik nai du gani action bra kiniga kobo kobole na pari du gani itu kiniga tools cholaile phalobo assistive tools cholai gina koi dibo ठीक पर दाउरी बोले न पारे दुकानी अलग पर दागी फेरा बोले किन्हीं का सिस्टम दे दागी इनकॉर्पोरेट वो इनका लगी तो special training teachers लगी तो we need special educators professionally trained teachers who must be positioned in each of the inclusive mark school. Nagaland marking Takilibi, our question today is, our elaboration today is, in the mark school kande, I do school to inclusive school jabo, yadi do the disabled kande, I get a lesson logo in Aguade, specially trained teachers asna nai. Our Takana Gulido, in what way the American approach Punagina, think training Digina Amila Pacha or Amila Pacha Punagina Jabu, it was it. Secondly, can it be possible that inclusive education is made essential in every school, or at least one in every district we identify a school or an academic institution where inclusive education is made essential? Longling the Amigandu inclusive education school naido. Private school bi bishi ase, government higher secondary ase, aro Yingli college ase. Well, we Longling Brahishi, we don't have inclusive school nine. Idu garni blind care home ektase. Amigala Longling district ba ola China ase. Yade laga mentor rakiniga cholai gina puna punai dia se. Lebi takan ki academic degree di bole. Takan ki BA qualify bole, takan ki class 12 pass kudi bole, Longling de opportunity naido. And now every parents can transition them to another academic institution. Poisa na thagile, aro ting hat pia to amma baba la hati thakile bishi bhal do. To imam tur Shillong de Kohima de Timapuri pothai gina to lesson lobule pothole na pare. Idu karni amika nachi boado district sob de inclusive school to mark kurde kima bhal. Aro yadi aro trained teacher rakidele ki bhal. Idu ase requirement. Thirdly, love, passion, compassion and willingness are synonyms to such ministry. It is difficult. Sosta ra yadi ami kan kotha kuri ase, suko biya kan kibi ami kan thuri lobo lagi, hat biya kibi sabu lagi. Holbi osa thing biya ekta ami kan toilet lu jayegi na, tai toilet de jado, ami kan toilet bahar de kundai gina rukhi lagi na. Aro tai toilet de cha khotam hoi gina to tai o paina thaka karni ami kan sapa kutile chaile paribna na paribna. This is a big question, and I am coming in this humanitarian talk. Paribna na paribna na. Kan biya bra action bra koilibi na puchile do passport khwa bishi de 3 bar wala to kubule phone jaw na pawo. Ko pari libi hasi na kubule pawo na paribna. Do we still have that patience? Itu gari to me. Love, morom ekta thakana, nicho laga passion ekta de saigina. I mean, suku biya na moi pali logo. Think biya ki to moi tuk pali bi, ami uthai logo ko na thakana and willingness. I dahan key position de thakili bi ami dahan ki modot pubo ke na monju hoi jado. Ekdam iniga, especially able bacha kan ki sabute to commitment to ami kan lagi jai. Because service to such special group of children cannot be managed by professionalism alone. So already existing registered society gobi or NGOs and even individuals and family which is intensively involved in taking care of such people through different helpful format should also be made stakeholder and packages should be made accessible to them. Key packages say whether it is NFI laga, ami laga ekta suggestion or opinion or discussion ekta do, ami kuli bole munja submission ekta do. NGO can be apart from governmental organization, na NGO can private institution, no little register kuna society kuli dia kan, or individual or family can be stakeholder hoigina. Take commitment ni thakishi bole do, and if their concern is legitimate, aro dagala kam do osai hoishi bole do. Ami kan indiga NGO kan gibi stakeholder bunai dina government laga required package or sanction to dibu lagi na itu bishi important ase pal bright start krado good reason they start krado kiti abo ami kan sometimes we may lost the track if we are not committed into ekta ase only be more so luigina chabule economic package thakana gule muri ase dikhigina murai de na aro phuk lagi ase dikhigina to baat khilabule na pare idu garni economic packages kam do helpful funding packages kam do NGOs nishna individual, family, already existing society can give rasta kuri dile to kiman policy that we do not only focus on government-run organization or institution, but even we come and impress the private or individual, those who are looking or moving forward this contribution. Fourthly, parents are community. Amakan our society can be. Ekta term logina sensitization has to go on. Imagine kuribi amilado association asado Christian association ekta ase. Kuribi nachane kina bacha kan amigal laga bacha khode thaga bacha kan di ase group ekta chutu chutu gang up kuna dagan pahar dikhili thaga do ekta bacha do yati olop complexion do olop darkly dusky na olop kala ase do tai ki nachane kina passively and gently friend to kuri kotha to kuri pahar de kilo de perai olebi amni olop pichi de ahibi na mohon de kilo ne perai guna just because the skin dolap kala hua karni tai ki isolate kuri dia huni kina it really pains me ami ki mon de beshi bikhaise itu karni sensitize kule birai na this can happen na itu karni especially able bacha kan ki ami kan kini ka bhal rasabo academic institution prabi church prabi bhal ra rakhibo society prabi bat khilai dibo rasta thik de logina chapo iki logot pera bole sorom na lakhibo itu sensitization do aro khodam logina chapo lagibo na this is one area of observation that we wish and desire that it continue aro lastly on inclusive education private institution or school should also be equally enabled to run inclusive school through equal or part distribution of packages and privileges required if there is a space. Private school kan kideo government kan bra meeting de made. We are invited in the meeting and then government bra school de aro system de key changes ani ase key nutun curriculum ani ase key packages ani ase skill hub laga kotha kuri or inclusive education laga kotha kuri so koi dia biji de presentation dia biji de or representative come to the private school laga representative come to uthigina to sir madam indiga ushuguli to amiga laga school be interested ase olop bi rasta at least human resources development training kan to apni kan pa environment development paribo na paribo bele na paribo koi di do na to system kan curriculum new changes man hani di government school de private kani to take 9 lu chabuli 9 polibi I'm so sorry to say that olibi ki demo our government school kam to aro pishi wala aro packages to ase olibi kam kura thaki jai to balance de henin private institution can be globally punishable do I think together we can make lots of impact. For example, if you can trust a private academic institution for your child's education, why can't we trust the private school or academic institution to take care of the specially able children? And that is why achi ami laga submission ekta why can't we take the private sectors also as part of the stakeholder? Laga role ekta logle pauna na paribo itu ase. Because imagine, पहिला time there, Hindi teacher na pai, Hindi teacher qualified nai, aro Hindi training chapuli malu bishi no like, amika laga naga context se, aro bishi tan lagi, iniga thakya aja dam de, aro Hindi aro science kan ki salary people be private institution ka bishi struggle kuri because they have to be paid little larger amount than the rest. Iniga struggle problem de, what government, how government intervene? Government can bring Hindi teacher posting by posting salary to that to khilai only be private institution de shika bole kothai dishilo iniga shikai de bole kothai dia karni idia to private institution can be student can be side she overall development itu karni I want to bring our attention to only 3 important presentation standing here. Number 1, physical care. No research or adoption happens without a trigger point or certain experiences. Na, achi amigan yadi SDG call set kurigina yadi whole day some evening da hosting association bo host kurina kotha koi dhaga do trigger point na thaki kina experience na thaki kina visionless pon hoido ekta jaga de kimai ta experience kurishi observation kurishi aru eto experience to equivalent kurna chama guri kina to eto to purile parase kono UN ra adopt pura Indian government ra adopt pura so to eto nishna ekta ase. So based on experiences I'm going to share, physical aspect of life needs attentive care even in educational school. Mangsudo Amila Bachodo Amiga was fully botai. Polibi Dalaga Mangsubi, school Ravi Saiki, Dalaga physical body being well-being to Nagasade. That is why health presentation number 1. Seeking fitness certificate, enclosing vaccinated certificate during admission has become expected standard in every school right now. Na? Rupela laka vaccination loshna loanai, abla bacha admission problem de. COVID-19 2 dose loshna loanai, aro medical fitness certificate asna nai. Itu kan so apni laga birth certificate documentation de attest kuri kina delay. So sagina when you qualify, you are taken in. Enroll kuri loi admission paini. Itu ekta ase. Only whole year, in a sense, 365 days, all of minus kuridina, whole year to bishi bakto, 2 bachida till 2 p.m. Amilaga bacha the school campus na. So most of his academic life, his life is dedicated on his in the academic institution. Campus bitote asido. Aji apni yadi puagan bi most of your life you're in the campus bitote issue do. That is why whole year during working days, student is engaged in school with their academic activities and other holistic development curriculum. That is why it is understood that bringing healthcare in the campus to benefit student community will be helpful in so many layers. Certain submission tasks, number one though, engaging a medical doctor. Strategic awareness programs on, okay? Itu amikan pal right and check the request to for example, bacha kan to chewing gum mishi khai, na sweets kan mangi thaki khai thaki, ami kan nati napo thai debi bacha laga dala classmate laga birthday hoshogi na, so classmate kan ki chewing gum de, to chewing gum khai thaga dam de, toast chun pra khai le nachane ke na ek chun to kola de phasi le ki kuribo na, ami la chupura ek time ka hoshi, tai class pide thaga dam de, sati bra de chewing gum khai na, ola ko bara tai chok pura murai de nai. Holy Bidalaga teacher was timely intervention that he kurigina, emergency tai 11th hour ki perform kuli pariship, itu perform kurigina tai ki pachai dishido, choking hazard pra. And that is why he's alive. He is in class 1 and I'm really happy now that he's alive. Ki jale itu idea to thakana gule do, itu din do dalaga dead body hospital logule aibine mati gule dishido, choking hazard. Second day, 3 minutes, 1 minute, adha second day muri jalaga issue asido. Itu garni demonstrative awareness program every school de thakibo lage ami laga school de bi thakibo iniga ami laga ekta important ekta observation do kiniga iniga choking hazard time de himlich koi de English wa do idu kiniga perform kurile bacha nijola classmate ki bachao paribo nijola laga student ki bachao paribo idu nishina ami kan incorporate kore paribo na paribo noile do how to perform first aid during probable stroke cardiac arrest case within school confined home or exposed circumstances. For example, like achanak apni la ama iki logot koi thaga damde stroke nishna symptoms apni dikhi jai ekta bacha bastu dura school de training loi logani achanak sabina every day long leng de ek hafta de ekta stroke case ami huni de ek hafta de tuida stroke patient mok chunge ani loi itu case se and I think I'm not a stranger to this alone apni bi ase lai de issue itu gani stroke achanak khwa nishna dikha damde phata babra kiniga amiga laga sati ki amiga laga teacher ki nula amiga laga student ki first aid ki na pachai na rakhi bole na paribo na medical intervention no adam de iniga kan demonstrative agreement demonstrative display demonstrative awareness to amigan ani leki man phala se iniga ekta ami like itu ekta idea de ase aro lastly financial support for expensive treatment cancer nishina organ damage nishna iniga kan issue kitya amikan laga student ekta ki aija bo to damde government kan bra financial package ekta noleto assistance ekta dibule pari ki man phal this is a suggestion Secondly, water bill kunasade. Please, especially a student, please pay your attention. It is called water bill. But it would mean a lot of things if this can be implemented as one of a mandatory goal in all the academic institutions. Ami laga bacha do, ami laga chukura ki pani bottle porta kuda pathai de. All right, Vedi, make it sure that you will see. Promise me, promise kuri bhi to acha promise kuri. Pani khabo na khabo koi. Chai na whole day khili gina bottle do khula bhi na khuli gina. Inika wabastai do. Apni kala bacha laga bottle ni wabastai na hai. Na. I'm telling you, it is a serious issue. These talab kutka nakhagan, kidney disease from Uriase. I have seen so many young people, class 9, class 10, class 12, clean lifestyle ase, sapa ase, mutu nakhai kushi, thiki thaki kushi, church TV palrai chai kushi, ulibi kidney damage ho jese ajna. Indika hanan mura laga issue huni ase, liver problem laga issue huni ase, gastritis laga problem huni ase. और पानी ठीक प्रा ना खा लगा बीमार issue नहीं है से इधर गाड़ी अमी लगा एक request तो a mother's dream a माइक ता लगा desire इच्छा एक ता दो एक प्रा तू ही बच्चा तो classroom ते बोले से water bottle तो दाई लगा बैग ते तो आसे Ami kan aru pahari water pani khapole to water tap to lagi dikina ase. Uli bi dahan pauri jai do. So what? In all the academic institution mandatory nishina, one bell for one sip of water. Na? Kali itu recess kali pen marabi noy. Noy shibule do class transition hopuli pen marabi noy. Uli bi ekta bell tang mari dishe 11 ne, for example. To 11 the bell tang mari dia bichide. So, Pachara, they take out their water bottle, drink a glass of water, refresh themselves, and remains healthy. Nah? Those are the things that can be contextualized. Nah? It may not be so relevant right now, but it may sound a little bit of a silly right now. We should struggle with. And this is what I have seen in our area. And this is what I've seen in Nagaland as a whole because I'm based in Dimapur. My whole family. Itukarni. Water bell. One bell, mandatory in all the schools of Nagaland, where we ring the bell. Every children take out their bottle of water, they drink and refreshes themselves. Silly, but a proposal that I make is a priority proposal. And lastly, mental health. Mental health, I really want to talk. I mean the church lagase, I represent the church. I mean the association lagase. To me, even all the church should be open about mental health. Na? Church tak be mental health or counseling, depression na kotha ko bole sorom na lagi. It was today. Aro ami to incorporate kuru lagi nega. Ami laga association ki bhi proposal de. Government school day class 8, 9, 10, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Class A braro class 6 tak LP school dena pacha khan aadho kini ka type ahi ami kan imagine karo bido Dimapur de hobi Mokokchung de hobi Twensang de hobi Longleg de hobi in any space any space you was there government school there pishi wala bacha kan do Class 10, 8, 9 di ahamando special background la ahoy de. Number 1, kono wala khode kam kuragan. Number 2, pishi tukhigan. Number 3, private school de drop out hoigina reason alag pra fail hoigina government school de migrate ho jai. Number 4, broken family laga aina ho jai. Idukani sure as it that they can be even termed in this stress category. Manula khode kam kuri two paigna aigna classroom te boi jai loli dor broken family bra amar puri jese papa puri jese ama baba bhi nai o bai nai kona free school da aise kona itu laga tension de aija pishi tukhila condition ba aija drop out kona aija no key mental condition de ai we have to really imagine aro itu laga upor de aro overall our academic institution you have to tell, you are the stakeholder, you have to tell today after even this elaboration also, tell us your story. What are you going through now? Stress, frustration and depression can be expected in student community since they are unapologetically exposed to academic pressure, failure, fear, demands, expectations, competition, relationship issue, emotional shutdown, addiction to various substances and habit, and such other overwhelming reality which needs addressing in the right time. Right time dito la kotha ko lagi. So, I'll just give you a short flip and I'll conclude my presentation. Ami do broken family laga thakise de. Broken family laga baba to mutu khai, maiki nutun ki logina berai, amma ki aigina mare. Tera bole bishi rati di pap lagai na komai aro pura gunba bra ami to tukhiya ase bhapna prani college uniform kini dibo ami laga gari de loi jabo phal khalwa kinibo ami lo ekbar khomabuna nokomabu molested by an elderly people na because I'm economically poor. I was poverty struggling taking advantage of na iniga condition fee hibole na pare exam likhibole diktar ho jai aro khor laga fara dibole na para laga issue mo laga kokai ekta frustration or depression ba drug overdose kuna murishe. I went through just too much in one stretch of a life, and this can be, I think, relatable to students. You have your own set of pressure in your own way where you may feel mentally distorted at times. And this needs open, legitimate, genuine discussion. So my proposal for the student community is this, that mental health and professional counseling need to be located in every school of the state as a primary requirement. Aiding on education on mental health should be part of the academic curriculum. Even church must have, church ki thakibo lagi. Every education institution de mental health la kotha pune paribo lagi, counseling dibo lagi, aro itu laga issue do classroom de bi kotha pune paribo lagi. This is one proposal I want to make it very clear. Lastly, career counseling. Career counseling bottom de amigan fed up question legina. Point nasan hodo. Bolibi ami tuita misunderstanding clear kuna amigan laga proposal de amigulo munjado. School so probably every year career counseling or guidance to loanishna se. Loi. Bolibi ami napuchado. Class 9, 10 de career counseling ki der dibo. Class 10 kan ki outgoing ki prishna didi do. By the time you are seated in class 9 or by the time you are positioned in class 10, you have already decided. Already too much of investment is done. To science maths falina, science falina, arts fali chabu. So decision wala bichi de class 8, 9 the career counseling there is too late to me. It is too late. Amigi beshi didi dishe amiga system bra. And I think American system rakhi dia American bishi didi. Itu gani number 1 career counseling do all of choldi mandatory package ekta sponsor kurigina academic board private and government de right time the early stage ki dile kiman phal. Number 2 do proper trained career counseling diala. For example career counseling dibo guna to banner to likhe de. Yadi ESC ekta aigina noile more women secretary ai na. Or ami career counseling de do. Itu gani ami aile do ida women secretary ase. Itu gani kini ka women secretary hobo. Kini ka theology chako. Kini ka women pastor hobo. Itu bhal bra koi gina ami chai chai. Na. ESC ekta mani le do mati le do. NCS kini ka crack kuribo lagi. Ki laga discipline de likhile bhal hoi itu do gina chai chai. Aro doctor ekta le do MBBS phali rasta ekta influence kuna chai chai do career counseling do. Itu gani American quality education dibo kwale education is only also for career building. Career gani education to data na. I hope like you are not thinking only about your graduation. Beyond graduation, you're also thinking and you have a plan. Na. Itu gani career counseling do rightly trained professional kandra ahi kina right time de making it a mandatory agreement for all the academic institutions to keep a career counseling in the right time through the professionals. That is why, what if there's a uniform directive in school curriculum to give career counseling to students in the right time through the right people, and even basics of career counseling find its way to academic curriculum. So many things, or maybe rest of the question to delay the discussion because conclusion yesterday. How can education system fail or become less significant? Failure number one, either we are setting an unrealistic educational goal without contextual references, or that there is a huge implementation failure from stakeholders, authority concerns or agencies. Ami koble laganai posting Deputy Commissioner Aiganaidia Kushe, what is happening to Eastern Nagaland, what is happening to Nagaland as a general. In Nagaland, most of the government schools need to be re-evaluated. Government school wapas sabulagi, private sector persaidina, education system to more of an inclusive aro quality kinika bona workta discussion chalikima phalguna present kuna rakhidiase. Thank you.
The topic that I'm asked to speak today is build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and focus innovation in Nagaland. Well, much against the high goal or sort of lofty topic that we have today. In our context, when we look around where we have crumbling infrastructure, Nagaland, we at the moment we cannot talk about even a single operating large-scale industry or industrial unit to name or talk about, where we have little or no scope for private players or private enterprises or private sector to for innovation or to bring innovative ideas which will enhance the livelihood of the people or the economy of the state. It gives quite a challenge for anyone to present a case for. But I believe it also gives us an opportunity to think about the issues or the pertaining issues that we have here in Nagaland in our time today. I will not be presenting any lecture, but I hope that this session will be just an eye-opener, or perhaps it's an opportunity for us to reflect back. And I'm going to take a few minutes and trigger a few questions for us to ponder on. And my hope is that at the end of the session, and when we sit down for our discussions, I hope that we would have a more meaningful dialogues and understanding regarding this subject. I'm also aware of the fact that the topic that I'm given today is mostly it's a state subject. Yeah, when we think about infrastructure, when we think about industries or innovations, in, like I said, in the private or the government sectors, it's mostly to do with it's a state subject. But at the same time, I think it's equally important for us to, like I said before, think about or give a thought about it and come up with possible ideas and what could be possible solutions. Today it's a consultative program which is in line with the United Nations SDGs, they call Sustainable Development Goals. And I believe this was actually formulated so that it could be, my belief is that it could be all about connecting countries, states, societies, and people like us. And when it comes to people, I believe the most natural focus should be on young minds, on young people like us whose lives are very much ahead of us. And this afternoon, I represent one of them here. We talked about the SDGs, or the goals, 17 goals set by the United Nations. And I'm not so sure if we are all aware of this or not, but the government of Nagaland in the year 2016 has drafted a policy document called Nagaland Vision 2030. which was directly in line with what was laid down in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And it's for all of us to look up on the net. It's a very comprehensive document, but very sadly, we can say that it's mostly in paper. There's hardly been any implementation as far as we as a layman could see. When we look into that policy document, the Nagaland Vision 2030, it talks about a number of metrics or index, especially on development sectors. And when we look into those development sectors, I'm given to understand, or I found out that especially Eastern Nagaland, or districts in Eastern Nagaland, fall way, way below the rest of the state, or most of the key development metrics or index. I'm not a regionalist, okay, and I'm quite aware of the fact that we have friends from other tribes or from other towns and other districts. But since we are here in Tuensang, I hope this is a place for all of us. And this afternoon, I will devote a few minutes and present a case for Eastern Nagaland. And why I do this is because, like I said before, the progress and development of Eastern Nagaland, or otherwise, I think will determine whether Nagaland as a state will achieve those vision or the goals set in the Vision Document 2030. So I want to spend a few minutes and, like I said, talk about or present a case for Eastern Nagaland. I'm sure all of us would be able to relate to that vision or without thought, which I'm trying to share. Now, when we look into Nagaland, Eastern Nagaland has 45% of the total population in Nagaland. We have about 60 to 70% approximately directly employing in agriculture or dependent on agriculture or farming for their livelihood, for their sustenance, which is far above the rest of the state's average. So if Nagaland has to achieve the envisioned goal of 2030, I think a lot needs to be done to reduce that gap. In spite of having 45% of the total population in Nagaland, very sadly, just about 4 to 5% of our people are employed in government sector. And in the absence of any private, so-called recognized or established private sectors in Nagaland, and where government employment or government opportunities could be one of the only or most preferred source of any meaningful or gainful employment in Nagaland, we just represent about 45%. And again, that gap is too narrow. And if we look into the index of employment opportunities, we fall way, way behind the rest of the Nagaland. Eastern Nagaland comprises of 1/3 of the total land area in Nagaland. But when we look into I'm talking about the infrastructure aspect of my topic. When we talk about infrastructure, for example, we have 1/3 of the total land area in Nagaland. And when we look into the length of road in Nagaland, Eastern Nagaland, the total length of road in Eastern Nagaland accounts for just about 28 to 29% of the total length of road in Nagaland. Yeah, we have districts like Mon and Longleng, which do not have a single Nagaland national highway passing or traversing through those big districts of ours. We still have, as of today, hundreds of villages who are yet to be connected to the nearest district headquarters or to the nearest medical facilities. And I'm sure, especially people from this part of Nagaland, are able to relate to what I'm trying to say. Out of the 5 hydropower plant projects in Nagaland, 4 happens to be in Eastern Nagaland. And apart from the district of Kifri, we are one of the least electrified power districts in Nagaland. And like I said, this is for all of us to see in the net. And that report has also been included in the Niti Aayog report of last year. We still have a number of hundreds of villages who are yet to be electrified in eastern Nagaland. And in this time, at a time like this, which is a basic necessity like food and water, I think the government in power today, or the stakeholders like all of us, or the subjects like us, I think a lot needs to be done. A lot of focus needs to be given to this sector if Nagaland is to achieve the vision set for 2030. Out of the 4 international trade centers in Nagaland, 3 happens to be in eastern Nagaland. It's very sad to say that the government in power today has done little or nothing to develop those centers. When we look into Manipur, for example, which has the lone international trade center operating vibrantly in Murray, impacting thousands of lives, creating jobs, improving the lives of thousands of people there, improving trade and commerce, which in turn, again, helping the economy of the state. I think in the years to come, focus needs to be made so that these centers are operational. I'm aware of the fact that there are so many other geopolitical issues that we have today in Eastern Nagaland, and due to which some of those plans may not be materialized at the moment. But I believe that for us to catch up with the rest of the world, or catch up with the index as shown, as I said before, I think special focus needs to be given so that these centers are developed and facilities are provided so that people living in Eastern Nagaland or in and around those trade centers can benefit a lot. It can improve their livelihood, and at the same time it can contribute a lot to the economy of the state. When we talk about industry, like I said before, it's purely a state subject, I believe, as far as Nagaland is concerned. And we don't have even a single industrial unit to name or to talk about. The failed ventures of the Nagaland paper industry in Tuli, paper company in Tuli, the Nagaland sugar mill in Dimapur are testament to the state of affairs today. So in spite of all these challenges, when we talk about especially Eastern Nagaland, especially the youth of Eastern Nagaland, I want all of us to consider this, and probably this will help us in initiating dialogues and discussions even later on. Even if we don't have any set industries or factories as such at the moment, Eastern Nagaland has considerable resources of natural minerals. Deposits of limestone, coal, and crude oil are abundant, which is yet to be explored or enhanced. Eastern Nagaland has enormous opportunities and offers huge potential in the field of hydroelectric power through its rivers like Tiku, Tizu, and Zinki. Eastern Nagaland has favorable agro-climatic conditions for commercial opportunities in floriculture and in horticulture. It has rich flora and fauna and has abundant medicinal and aromatic plants. I think focus needs to be given in the near future so that we develop and explore those opportunities. Enterprises and industries related to bamboo and cane, or rattan, which is grown abundantly in our part of Nagaland, and which also commands quite a good market in rest of India and even abroad. Special focus needs to be given to tourism and eco-tourism in Nagaland. In Eastern Nagaland, for example, we have Mount Saramati, which is not far from here. Effort and sustained effort should be given so that homestays or hotels can be developed. Tourists or thrill seekers can come and visit those places, which can generate livelihood and improve the living condition of people around that area. Eastern Nagaland has rich and undiluted culture and tradition as compared to the rest of the Nagas. Come to think about it, my dear friends, come to think about Hornbill, which is the biggest festival in Nagaland. You take out Eastern Nagaland from there, and what will Hornbill look like? We have undiluted, rich cultural history, tradition. And I think, as young people, when we look for improved lives or economy, we must make every effort to make sure that, we stay relevant. But at the same time, we guard these principles, or these traditions and cultures, which will at the end of the day be an asset in the years to come. We need to become a vibrant tourist destination to showcase our beautiful land and our rich culture. I'm happy today that here are some friends from, I think, part of the Skill India initiative by the central government. They are, I think, attached to the DC office here in Tuensang in Nabla. Lastly, I want to spend a few minutes and talk about the opportunities in the skill sector. Today, my dear friends, some of you are here students, and in a year or two, we will add to that percentage. Now, there are about 20 to 30,000 of Nagas who are graduating every year and who are coming into the job market. But when we look into the opportunity for employment in all the sectors in Nagaland, I think especially the government sector will give just about maybe 1,000 or two in a year. And so students like you are graduating, 20, 30,000 are graduating every year. And that gives us a cushion, especially, and I think it will be an important topic of discussion for us to consider. The central government has initiated or developed so many schemes. For example, the concept or the topic like Skill India, Startup India, Make in India, Digital India, etc. Unfortunately, in Nagaland and in our part of this world, I think we have missed the train. This project has been ongoing for now a couple of years now. But we are yet to see the light of the day in terms of developing or enhancing this particular sector. Today we live in India, which is one of the fastest growing economy in the world. Today India is the second largest startup nation in the world. And young people, I'm sure all of you are aware, companies like Swiggy, like Oyo, right? Byju's, Zomato, Paytm, Udaan, Freshworks, getting listed not just in India, but even in NASDAQ, changing lives of thousands and thousands of Indians and citizens of the world. I believe, especially students or young people of Eastern Nagaland, we need to develop skill. We need to go for training, for skilling, so that you and I become employable. As per the Economic Times, India will require around 119 million additional skilled workforce in the field of construction, in the field of retail, transportation, logistics, automobile, and handloom, etc. With ever-increasing problem of unemployment in Nagaland, and adding that with so many other geopolitical issues, the aspiration that we have, I think for a state like Nagaland, I always say this, that the biggest threat or the biggest problem that we have today is not about political solution with the government of India. It's about unemployment, and we must urgently address these issues. My dear friends, I tell you this with experience. This is not a story. I know of people who have done their bachelor's degree and serving as a security guard in the office in Bangalore. I believe this is such a waste of resources. If you go for some training or if you get some skill, I'm sure you can have more gainful employment opportunities with the education that you have, with the degree that you have. Today in New Delhi, the US consulate is building the US embassy, and they need workforce who can understand, who can speak in English. I was told that hundreds of Nagas have gone to Delhi, working as construction laborers there. Let's not just think about the negative or the cons that we have. I think we have, compared to the rest of India, we have at least some knowledge or some education. I'm sure most of our students are at least class 8 pass or 10 pass. Who can write, who can read in English, who can converse in English. And this is one of the strength that we can push forward. So I think important topic of discussion or focus should be given to skill India. And I'm sure, especially the central government or the government in power, especially at the central level, has designed so many schemes which can be availed, and especially with people like us, people in Eastern Nagaland. Naga youths are very creative. I think if we are molded well, we are very hardworking, and if we get some skill, I believe we will be able to mitigate some of the looming issues or problems that is facing Nagaland. The government of Nagaland, like I said before, has drafted a policy document called Vision 2030, which talks about skilling, good governance, and infrastructure development. This has been the key focus of the Vision 2030. And like I said, very sadly, I think the successive governments in Nagaland, as a layman, I would say is that they have failed us tremendously in most of the aspects. Today, young people like us, we want to be governed well. We want to work. Our aspiration is we want to live in peace. We want to have a better life. We want to contribute to the economy of the state, economy of the country. We just don't want to be a liability for the rest of the developed or developing countries. I think a young demographic population has been the strength or the biggest asset. Very sad to say that in our context, young people, young Nagas are becoming more of a liability than an asset. And people from Eastern Nagaland, young people from Eastern Nagaland, we cannot afford to be a liability. We have to be an asset. And on that note, I want to leave this podium, and over the course of our roundtable discussion or group discussion, I hope this is just like I said, I'm not an expert in the field, but I've just shared what I genuinely felt is important, and I hope that this will, bring us some topic of discussion over our group discussion, and I hope this will be an eye-opener, or this will, at least trigger or spark some light in you to think about the issues that we have. And like they always say, I believe strongly, more than ever, that for every problem there should be a solution. And as we strive to find that solution, I want to wish all of you the very best. Yeah, thank you.